So hello again, this is Lenore Lenny Dancy, and I know I just shared the book cover from Broken Wings, my first book, and as I stated, I am re-promoting it. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to read at least two snapshots from that book to give you an idea what what it's all about. So when the second book comes out, like I said the first time, you'll be able to follow the transformation and the transition if you know a little something about me. So just to be fair, I'm actually not going to start at the middle of this book. At the beginning. I'm actually going to start somewhere in the middle. Snapshot 4, the subtitle is Still Living Wrong. After leaving the party, everything seemed natural. Although I knew he was out of my league, let me review my upbringing. Upper middle class family, house in the suburbs, and I wanted nothing. And a young boy from the other side of the tracks has captured my attention with his bad boy demeanor. Really? I haven't learned anything yet. It didn't matter because it was the thrill that grabbed my curiosity. Like all the others before him, sex would be the first course served. We began dating, hanging out, and you know what else. I asked him to take me to my junior ring dance and to my senior prom. We were as close as two people could be. However, there was a slippery slope. My daddy totally disliked him, and I was forbidden to see him again. What I failed to mention is that my daddy was determined to keep us apart. He had a property warrant against this boy to stay off his property. So I know you know what happens when you tell someone to stay away from something or someone. Exactly. They don't listen. I spent as much time on the other side of the tracks as I could, getting high, having sex, and doing whatever came naturally for me. This went on for the remainder of my high school days. I was living a wild and reckless life again. It's graduation time. I'm 17 years old and I'm excited, and I'm wearing an engagement ring. As I'm about to take the walk to receive my high school diploma, that was another best kept secret. My mom had graduated from high school, but not my daddy. I was with him when he received his GED and certification in electronics at Mergenthaler or Merrill High School, and it was a very proud moment. Education was important to him, and he wanted me to be one of the first grandchildren to get a degree. That would come much, much later. As time went on, I was getting in deeper and thinking I was in love, enjoying this bad boy life and being the girl by his side. It would have consequences much later that I never saw coming. Excuse me. So let me digress again, just for a second. I want to be very clear about something. I was a C student in school, yet I was accepted to every college I applied for. I loved Virginia, and I really wanted to attend Hampton Institute, but my behavior growing up came back to haunt me. My daddy would not allow me to leave the state and insisted I attend Morgan State University in 1975. I was livid and threw a straight up hissy fit. All that didn't matter. With daddy leading the way, hi-ho, hi-oh, off to MSU I go. I would stay at Morgan for 3 semesters until I found out I was pregnant. I'm about to turn 18 years old with a baby. Whew, I was not expecting that. No pun intended. But you can guess what happened next. I dropped out of college. I know you're not surprised. I struggled with this decision. However, I knew I was keeping the baby because I thought I was in love. There would be so much tension in the house between me and my daddy. His disappointment could be felt every time we were near each other. He would talk to me or look at me, but every so often he would remind me of how I was throwing my life away. During the 9 months of my pregnancy, my mom was very supportive and did all she knew how to do. and I appreciated her for that. My due date was in the middle of the summer. My daddy and my brother went away to Philadelphia to attend a few baseball games and to visit family. My mom sacrificed her summer vacation with me to be at home in case I went into labor. For the most part, the pregnancy was without issues and things were progressing as they should. I kept all appointments and gained some significant weight. Ugh. Then came life-changing decisions. The year is 1976, and I've dropped out of college. I have a bouncing, beautiful baby boy, still living at home, and I'm 18 years old. My daddy couldn't get himself to look at this beautiful baby, or look at me for that matter. My presence infuriated him. I found it interesting that someone could actually walk by a bassinet with a cooing baby and be oblivious to the whole thing. My daddy did it daily without missing a beat. My mom, on the other hand, was very helpful and disappointed at the same time. We both stayed out of my daddy's way. I previously mentioned a property warrant. Well, as you can imagine, my son's father was banned from the house. Visiting privileges were completely revoked. 5 months would go by and nothing had changed with my daddy and my child. This heartbreak was real, and I didn't know how to maneuver around it. I knew I had to leave. Following my 19th birthday, I would do the unthinkable. Wait for it. I would come home only to permanently move out of my parents' house for good. In case you can't figure it out, let me tell you what I did. If you recall, and even though you listening right now have no idea because I didn't start from the beginning, I was engaged when I graduated from high school, then came the baby. I remember how that rhyme goes, but I know it's something about marriage and then the baby carriage. Really doesn't matter because I did it in reverse. I came home and my two best friends came to my house and asked me, "Did you do it?" I looked at them and then I looked at my mom and very quietly said, "Yes." Me and my baby's daddy, the day before, we decided to elope. My new mother-in-law drove us to her pastor's house in the middle of a blizzard with a 10-month-old baby to be married in his living room. Before we could say "I do," my son started crying. I ended up holding him for the duration of the ceremony. This would be a major adjustment for me because I've only lived with my family, and now I'm moving in with in-laws and not having access to the things I was accustomed to. I had to learn a brand new way of living independently with a husband and a baby. Again, making adult decisions without a clue or a plan. My new family embraced me for the most part. This was different for all of us. I had to schmooze my youngest sister-in-law and convince one of my brother-in-laws that I was a good person, but it eventually came together. New baby, husband, new family. How did I get here? Keep that comment to yourself. I don't recall being nervous or scared. I do remember thinking this was going to be really different from anything I've ever known. I had no previous training or experience in the duties of a wife or how to really care for a baby. Oh well, like everything else, I'll wing it. It can't be that difficult. This was about to be a wake-up call like no other. I have to grow up now and take responsibility for another human being and be a wife too. My first thought was, how do I do this in someone else's home? Do I simply keep my space clean? Will we share food in the refrigerator? What about laundry? Are there house rules that I need to be aware of? For the first time in my life, I was oblivious, vulnerable, and totally out of my comfort zone. So, how do you like me now? So I'm going to read the second part of Snapshot 5, this Dark Angel in Fear. Right after my 21st birthday, I found that I was pregnant again. This pregnancy was difficult and I had a lot of issues, swelling feet and withdrawals. Just as I reached 5 months, my water broke and I suffered a miscarriage. Again, key word, again, I lost a baby girl. In 1979, I would give birth to another son, born premature. Shortly after his birth, they whisked him away from me. Later that day, the doctors informed me that he would have a short lifespan due to respiratory issues. If you remember, I was a heavy smoker of cigarettes and marijuana. I still didn't have the common sense to give up my addictive lifestyle during pregnancy. However, I kept this baby close to me and was very particular about those who came in contact with him. He was my miracle baby, and I had to protect him. Again, if you recall, I mentioned how my daddy wouldn't look at my first son. Well, this time he was waiting on the front porch when I came home with baby boy number 2. We sat and talked. He asked how I was doing while gazing at this tiny baby. I started crying crocodile tears, and no matter what I said, I couldn't get my daddy to hold him. His presence at that time meant so much more. That was one of the proudest moments in my life, and then tragedy would hit again. Exactly 6 months later, my daddy would pass, in less than 24 hours after being rushed to Union Memorial Hospital. I was the last one to get to the hospital because I needed a babysitter. Before giving my daddy that final kiss, I told him I would fulfill his request and get my college degree and make him proud of me in heaven. For me, my life was over. How does a daddy girl move on without her daddy? Within months following my daddy's death, things got even worse. The name calling increased, the physical abuse escalated, and I again was helpless and numb. I was broken and lost, but I did find a way out and left. Now, with my mommy being a widow and my brother still out in the world doing drugs and alcohol and spending the family money, I was able to go home where I belonged. Let me tell you how that door opened up for me. When two people are getting high, it's toxic, and no one has a clear head, and both act crazy while stupid stuff continues to happen. When that last incident happened, I went to the hospital. After lying to the police officer and the physician, I called the house and asked a family member to grab my sons and meet me at my mom's house, and I never looked back. Before you start getting all exciting and thinking she's free and getting herself together, you could be more wrong. I exchanged one pain and fear for another. Over the next couple of years, I would attend the funerals of family members, friends, and co-workers. I never understood why or how I always had the strength to console so many people. Funny though, I always joked with my mom about going to funerals of people she didn't know, and here I was, doing the exact same thing. I really don't like talking about that. I guess because it's been a big part of my life since I was young, which makes it a reality. I decided to embrace this gift of comforting and continue to attend funerals with friends and family visiting people who were actively dying. The dark angel was here to stay, and I just had to be strong for those that needed a friend. I was that friend. Hopefully, I've sparked your curiosity to want to pick up Broken Wings, to find out what happened in the beginning, to get me where I started this conversation, and then find out what happens at the end of this conversation. And then when Broken Wings from Temptation to Redemption comes out, then you can go, oh, okay, it makes sense. I love you. Thank you for listening. Stay safe.